Welcome to Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show will have a talk about Linux projects such as a Linux distribution, a desktop environment, or application. We also chat about the news or any variety of topics from the community. Anything that's Linux, tech, and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the OpenSUSE project. And with me today, I've got such a fantastic packed panel of people. I've got Ben, Dale, Dolphin, Jinda, Michael Tuns. Hi, Michael. Mike Chilson, Penguin Revolution. I have Zebedee Boss, Robin Just, and War Thunder. How is everybody?
Doing well.
Excellent.
Doing all right today.
Doing all right.
Fantastic. So good to have you. Such a packed panel. I imagine because of MX Linux. That seems to always be kind of the popular thing, I think. So also, if you need to
It's one of the most popular Debian respins out there.
Well,
I feel like I had to join because of the 6 years of being number one at DistroWatch.
Well, we're not totally convinced that there isn't some sort of shady business going on behind the scenes. I'm just kidding.
I neither confirm nor deny the existence of a squirrel-powered botnet. They work for nuts.
Always screwing something up, isn't it, Dolphin?
Powered by Michael AI.
So if you'd be so kind to hit that like button and potentially subscribe if that you have not done so already. And also, please chat. You can also join us here on the chat in the Discord, or provide your voice or the any input from the YouTube chat as well. Be greatly appreciated. I like the interaction. It makes things fun. And also during non-show times, you can also continue the conversation on Discord and Telegram as well. And I know people are mad at Discord, but okay, we're always mad at somebody. So on the docket for today, we're going to talk about MX Linux, potentially some news if we run out of things to talk about. I imagine not, but if not, there'll be a community free pour and last call. But first, what are you doing in Linux and tech? Jinda, you mentioned something at the start. Actually, I didn't even know what you were going to talk about, but I was really excited because you said what I really want to talk about was, and then I interrupted you. So fire away, man.
The rotten sister, she's a network administrator for a small town in New York. And evidently, which I've used VMware once in my life, just because I could, they decided to raise their rates like times 1,000.
Yes.
Like literally. Did. Yeah, and so she asked me, she goes, hey, what have you ran besides that? And I said Proxmox. Now, I don't know if that's the best solution to replace VMware, but I thought it was a good one. And my question is Proxmox a good solution to replace VMware, or am I completely wrong?
From an administrator side, absolutely. But it depends on what they're doing with it. So if they are doing basic stuff and they're using VMware in the sense of they heard about it and they're using it to run a couple VMs, then VirtualBox is an easier solution for those kinds of things. But if it's administrator stuff, then yeah, Proxmox is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it would be for an entire town. So
then Proxmox is a good option, yeah.
Yeah, I would think it would be too. But I was shocked at how much they raised their rates. I don't even know how. Do they not want to stay in business?
I think they were bought by Broadcom, something like that, wasn't it?
Oh, that's what happened.
So we were
they bought
also,
them and then just completely changed all sorts of stuff.
So for what it's worth, we were using VMware also, and when that changed a couple of years ago, actually, I think it was now. So up for renewal, buying some new servers and whatnot, looked into VMware, and literally it was between it was like 4 and 6 times the cost for the exact same licensing. And because we go through a software distributor of sorts, like we have the company's called Insight, and so I have a sales rep that I interact with for all of that handles basically all of our business to business sales. So they're kind of interfaced, so we don't have to interact with Microsoft. And anyway, which by the way, terrible tech help there. So what the sales rep said was, essentially, to us as the company I work for, you're too small. VMware doesn't really want your business. That's really what it boils down to. They want large enterprise data centers. The small organizations is not who they want, so they're pricing you out. I'm like, wow. I mean, I appreciate the very candid feedback. But
Well,
yeah,
the people who are like they're being candid, but they probably were being like more corporate-y from the other side. But at least they're upfront about it in that sense. But it's also even like worse because a lot of people who didn't hear about it, there was actually like this whole drama around it because VMware used to have a thing where you could buy a perpetual license that your software would work for that version of VMware forever, no matter what. And they revoked perpetual licenses. Once whoever, I think it was Broadcom, but I could be wrong about that.
Yes,
but whoever
Broadcom.
bought VMware, so they decided to just revoke all of the stuff that people liked VMware for, and VMware became like this hated product at this point, and the only people who use it, which is actually on purpose, they're pricing people out because they don't want to deal with smaller companies. They only want to deal with like the big database, data centers and stuff like that. And it's sad, but it's not shocking because VMware has been purchased, I think, 2 or 3 times, and this time it was purchased by a big tech company that was Broadcom has not been the poster child for making decisions that people like.
No. I have another suggestion for you, but it depends on what kind of hardware you're using. So since I work in a business that we're a 24-hour operation, we don't really have downtime for things. So we can't really, to take the plant down, it's got to be planned well in advance unless something, goes terribly wrong. In which case it costs lots of money. Like for every hour, it's many thousands of dollars of cost. So we went with a high availability cluster. I think OpenShift by Red Hat's one, but we ended up going with SUSE Harvester because, of course, it's me.
Naturally.
And there might have been some swag in the deal too that I might have gotten. I don't know. I can't tell you for sure. But anyway,
I bet you already had like 50 of those.
I had 3, and I got like a half a dozen more. So anyway, the
yeah, I was about to suggest Red Hat's solution too. So it's really good.
Really, the difference between OpenShift and Harvester from a user perspective, like from the perspective of the company I work for, was basically, do you want Ford or Chevy? They're kind of built on a lot of the same technologies. So they're both good. You can actually run Harvester for nothing with no support, and it still works very well. Or we actually have paid support with SUSE because, well, we can't have no support.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't work that way. So anyway, though you can run a single node Harvester unit, but that kind of defeats the purpose. A single node cluster. So I guess it wouldn't make it a cluster, but it's a single node cluster. But like we have 3 node clusters. So I'm actually deploying another one, or 2 more. So the idea is if you could, the way it does updates like between the machines, or like it, so it drains one machine, does all the updates, reboots it, comes back up, pulls loads off the next one, reboots it, does the updates, reboots it, and then you kind of balance everything out. So you can do all your maintenance, whatever, have 0 downtime. Nobody knows you're doing anything unless something goes tragically wrong, like your switch decided to have an aneurysm. But and so that's really good. But I don't know, probably for a city, I can't imagine they're probably like hopping and popping all the time. So Proxmox is also a really great solution. We actually looked at that as well, and it didn't fit some of the needs that we had for high availability clustering. So
does Proxmox? Oh, it does provide a service. Okay, I was wondering because I've always heard Proxmox as being like an open source project, and that's all everyone ever talked about it. But I just looked it up. They do actually have services, so that's fine too. I was just going to say, like, if you wanted, there's Red Hat OpenShift and SUSE Harvester and other ones. I think Canonical has one too. But like, I think any of those options would be solid options.
Yeah, I would say for like getting up and going, Proxmox, like my recommendation, I would say have her try that first because there's gonna be the support for that's gonna be really easy. You don't have to learn, the Kubernetes, the KubeVirt thing, that's a whole nother, bag of chips right there. And I think that she would probably be really happy with that. I would say you can pretty much run it on any hardware you want to. It's not very demanding from what I remember. I could be wrong.
Well, Yeah, I ran it on a Raspberry Pi, Proxmox, and I actually launched a Linux distro from it. And I had no idea how that could possibly work, but it did.
Yeah, I would say give that a shot. Have her give it a shot. I think she might be very happy with it ultimately. So,
I was just making sure that I was on the right track. I don't want to suggest something and find out later on that was not the way to go.
Yeah, no,
it sounds like
Sure,
Proxmox. Yeah, it sounds like Proxmox is for your application probably is the best. As long as you're not, you can't really expect support with them unless you buy the support contract. But for your application, if you're just looking for a cheap or free solution, Proxmox is going to be your best bet for your application.
Okay.
It's either that or Red Hat and doing the Red Hat free thing, but you're limited to something like 25 machines on that. So if you're doing anything more than 25 VMs or anything, you're gonna run into problems with Red Hat unless you buy it.
Okay.
And then we also talk about how you can do virtual machine backups and restores. We can make a whole series of Linux Saloons on setting up your sister's municipality. It might be a fun series.
Yeah, we'll have to talk to her and ask her what she's really looking for. But I mean, VMware is unfortunately out of the question, and it's sad, but no one can afford it anymore. And
then what you do is you convince the municipality to switch all of their workstations to MX Linux. And then you got somehow paid Dolphin Oracle a support contract. I don't know. Yeah.
He's got nothing but free time. You might as well take it.
I'm sure. Yeah. You can just do it all. Well, fantastic. Well, I guess, I'd love to hear what else comes of this. I think that's a pretty exciting thing going on. Your sister is not alone in the pain of what VMware is doing. So it's kind of sad too, because they were sort of the OG in virtualization solutions, and now they're really decided to sink their own ship. So it's pretty.
The sad thing is also that for the first year, like their whole goal is like Broadcom bought them so that they could like get short-term benefits. And the first year, they made more money by doing it because they charged more, and the big companies who could afford it and couldn't afford to leave had to pay more. So, but ultimately, it's gonna who knows when, but ultimately, it's gonna backfire eventually because for sure. 5-10 years, it's gonna but also Broadcom probably doesn't care. Like at that point, they got their money and they're done. But who knows? We'll see what happens, I guess. Yeah. And for those who would like to know more about the whole situation, I actually hosted a panel with some industry experts of data management and all sorts, and virtualization and all sorts of stuff. A couple when it happened, about a couple weeks after it happened, and I'll share that with everybody in the community if you want to know more.
Absolutely, if you got any, you have links for that. Somewhere you can provide?
Yeah, I'll have to find them. It happened a couple years ago. I don't remember exactly where it is, but I can provide links and send them to you.
Cool, because what I'll do is I'll put those in the show notes after the fact, and when I publish those after the show, or whenever. And I can always edit those later.
And to be clear, I wasn't one of the experts. I was the panel host.
Oh, okay. Well, Michael, you're always an expert to me on something.
Very good. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, one or two things. Hot Pockets. Right. I'm really good at those.
Hot Pockets they're delicious too, although they are
some of them.
But if you bite into it too quickly, it's like molten lava. It's the hottest substance on Earth, I think.
Except for the middle, and it's frozen still.
Oh yeah. It's somehow molten, surrounded by.
Which is actually hilarious because there actually is a pattern called Hot Pocket for when the weather is freezing in the middle of the country and hot on the sides. So fun times.
That's hilarious, and I'm really highly amused that that's a thing, and I feel better.
I busted out laughing when I saw it was real. That's awesome.
Like I feel better knowing that is actually a thing. So.
Me too.
Yeah. All right. So we'll go ahead and move on to the straw poll. If you have not done so already, there is still time to knock out that straw poll. It is at cubiclenate.com/polls. That's where we're hosting the polls now. Actually, there's a couple polls on there, but at least knock out the MX Linux one. So I will refresh here. The question is, what best describes your experience using MX Linux 25.1? So just hit the little quick refresh button here. Click on the see results. So I'm hosting it here because I thought, why not? So in number one, with 50% of the votes, is it's amazing. So was there any question that people would say that, Dolphin? Are you surprised that half the voters said it's amazing?
I am tickled to death at this illustrious group of Linux experts marked at 51%. Thrilled to death.
Nerds. So in
you say tomato, I say tomato.
That's true. You say potato, I say potato. All right,
Well, I'm glad. I feel honored to have you think of us as expert. Oh, jeez.
Well, he was he was just talking to Zeb. Honestly, let's be clear.
No, I was
I don't know. I don't know if I consider myself a person of that caliber.
He needs to mop up the sarcasm that was coming out. He was drooling the sarcasm there. Yeah.
Well, I don't really consider myself an expert in anything.
Yeah, I don't either. So in second place, tied for second place actually, is between It Is Good and Tux Penguin. So I think Tux Penguin is kind of like the discard vote. I'm not really sure how we quantify that, what it is.
Well, it's like if you don't know the answer, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Ooh. I know it's the same Robin, but it says Robin X says, "Ha, expert. I'm still a spurt." That's funny. See, then
I've been an X a few times.
Well, there we go. See, that. Yeah. I mean, can't do much better than that, right?
Close enough.
And then tied for third place, with 5% each vote, is It's Okay, Not Interested in This Exploration, and Other. So then nobody said did not have a good time with it. Nobody said not interested. So there you go. That's the breakdown. So first place, it's amazing. All right. I guess that means we'll get right into the distro discussion here. So for
did anybody actually? Sorry, Nate. Did anybody actually write what other was? Because normally they leave comments, don't they?
Normally they do. I don't have them. That might be my fault. So
I think the problem is that they tend to leave them all over the place. They're in Discord, they're in Telegram, they're on your website.
I did get a comment saying about the polls now, saying Vince accusing me of collecting everybody's data. So there was that. I chose to omit that as part of the conversation, but I guess I didn't know. So
also, like collecting everybody's data is just collecting a vote. That's no one's data. That's just a random vote of anonymous.
Yeah, well, I mean, and wouldn't you trust me more than like Google? I mean, really?
Absolutely, 100%.
See,
or whatever poll system you were using before. This is way better for sure.
Yeah, I was using the StrawPoll, which actually is a really great poll system. This one I'm still kind of working out some little things with it, but it has like yes and no votes. So, for instance, just totally quick aside, there's a bring back the Linux Saloon early edition. There's a vote on that as well. So if you want to do that in our cubiclenate.com/polls.
Well, that's cool, but also I think it's just better that it's not StrawPoll / whatever or I think it's like .me or something with just like gibberish at the end.
Yeah.
Like this is so much easier to remember. So I think this even just that is a good reason to do it.
And also it can keep all the polls like in one area, so you can actually look at all the past polls very quickly, for funsies.
Exactly.
So, okay, just lost my notes. There they are. So we have rules for this exploration. So the intent is to talk about the different aspects of the operating system and discuss our experiences from using it. This is a discussion that should be objective and constructive. So non-objective opinions like this is garbage is not helpful. But rather if you say, I wish it had a specific feature, or I wish it allowed me to do a certain thing, that would be more beneficial to the conversation. So the point is, remember, the point is to highlight the positives, but not ignore the lowlights of the project. Remember, this is a labor of love for some, so let's not poo-poo on it. All right, so since we actually have, I see a hand up. Dolphin, you want to say something? Nope, okay.
No, I was just waving as the person with the labor of love.
Yes, that's right. Okay, I thought, gotcha. Awesome. So I could go into the about that I read online, or I can ask you about just a real quick, because a lot of people know MX Linux. We know it's Debian based, but maybe a little bit of like a piece of the history of MX Linux that you think that most people should know that maybe they don't necessarily always acknowledge.
Okay, so MX Linux started off when the MEPIS project, which was actually privately owned, ceased development, and the guy who the guy that runs the Antics project offered to help the MEPIS community at the time, to say, you know, you guys want to put something together. And the guy who ended up being the project leader for MX was not me, as most people don't know that, but I do a lot of the technical stuff. But the guy was Jerry. On our forum, he was Jerry3904. He recently passed away a couple of days after Thanksgiving in the United States. Actually, so that's first week in December, give or take. And absolutely amazing guy. And so the vertical panel on the XFCE is kind of his doing, because the original device that they developed the system on was one of those old netbooks that had the half height screens. Mm-hmm. So everybody wanted to cram. It's like the old ones, right? So they wanted to cram the vertical bar on the left to get the most screen real estate, because even if you hated the vertical bar, that screen was so small. So you had to do it. You couldn't not do it. So 10 years later, we're actually going into year 11. We've got the multiple releases. We actually gave up on the old systemd shim system for our classic dual-init setup. Actually, the original release wasn't dual-init. It was dual-init for a long time. We had to give it up for the 25 release because, quite frankly, Debian stripped everything out of the kernels during their release candidate cycle. The part in the kernel that supports it. I'm not an expert in this area, but it's something called C groups. It's C groups version 1. C groups version 1 is now gone. So, and they did that during the release candidate cycle for 612 kernels and up. Fine. We went to single init route for the 25 release so we can get them out the door. And then Prowler GR, who is a user in our forums, but he's kind of once again, the Antics project guys and our kind of collaboration that we go back and forth with each other on, kind of comes to the rescue, right? So he comes along, he's putting together something for Antics, and we adapted it for MX. So 25.1 is back to having 2 init systems on one ISO. Quite frankly, I think we did some things for the user this time to make it a little bit better than the old systemd shim system. So that's kind of where we went to. We miss Jerry very much. But we do not have the bus problem in MX because we're operated by a board. And if we were smarter, we'd have set certain financial things up right, but we were never disconnected from our money. The bank disconnected me from our money, but not us. It was a snafu in the paperwork. But all squared away, and love to the family if you're watching. I know some of you do. And so that's where we are today. 25.1, it came out in January, and there's a lot of people that put in some from outside the project, from the Antics side, that helped us get the dual-init system back. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if that's where you're going, but that's where I went.
Well, no, that's fine. And that was actually a discussion point I want to bring up, was but the dual init support, which I thought was really cool. How you executed it this time, which I think is way. I think it's actually an improvement in many ways to how it was before. I think maybe I'm wrong on that.
Well, what do you call it? I had a boss who said that sometimes you can make different decisions if you're unencumbered by past experience. So I'd like to think that means that you don't know what you're doing or you haven't done it before. So what the old system was, it was actually using systemd components. SysVinit would use certain systemd components for the session management, mostly systemd login, let's be honest. But there were some dbus hooks. There were some other things that we did to make that work, and that's what died. All that kind of thing died. So the new system actually is a very simple idea. We just don't make the init systems conflict, so that you can have them on the ISO at the same time. And Prowler GR came up with a rather clever way of using the Debian packaging system to divert certain scripts, so that as things update, we don't wipe out the setup. We also had to have a patched version of systemd under the old system. Now we don't. We can use Debian's packaged systemd, which means the security updates come a lot faster. We just have to have a patched version of SysVinit. It's not even that patched. Just it's a special version so that it doesn't conflict with the systemd parts, and that is a lot easier to maintain on our end. So it's a pretty good system. And this time we added the live, right on the live menu, that we added the bits that allow you to choose it right from the live menu on the official media. And then whichever one you pick is what you get on your as default on the install. And that was different from the old system. The old system was always SysVinit as the default, and you had to. It's actually why boot options came into being. Was one of the reasons boot options came into being, so people could choose which boot engine they wanted to choose. Now it just, hey, if you want systemd, bam, choose systemd when you start it up the first time. The rest of it's magic.
Yeah, and I think something else I think is really great about MX is I feel like the project's very focused. So you have your XFCE, your KDE, and your Flexbox, and then your Raspberry Pi respin for your ISO options. And so I just like how focused I feel like it is. The effort's focused, And I didn't try the KDE one, but is the XFCE? That's probably your flagship.
It's the original. It's got the most customization to it. Most of the tools are agnostic. So the MX project, at its heart, we got the 3 desktop. Now KDE Mepis was a classic KDE distro. And thinking about how far it goes back, it was a competitor back in the day with the early releases of Ubuntu. So it goes back pretty far. 20 years was last year. For 20 years, a year before last, I think, was Mepis. We pulled the Tux Digital routine of having 2 anniversaries, one for MX, one for Mepis. Yes, right. But anyway, that didn't run real well on the early Chromebook, on the early netbook. So they went with XFCE. And XFCE is still easier to manipulate in some ways than KDE to make it do what we do with it. But Jerry, we did the XFCE release first. Then Adrian was the primary mover behind the KDE release, and he still builds it. But it's really I'm really excited about how many people in our community use it, because it's a little finickier to work with, especially now with the Wayland stuff. But we're learning as we go, and we've made, and 25.1 has some adjustments to make it better than it was when it was under 25. And then the Flexbox was another one that was a labor of love for Jerry, and thankfully some other members of the team have taken over shepherding that project. So are we focused? Yeah, we got a fairly large team for the kind of project that we are, but it's totally community run, and I'd like to say the community is older than the project. They're all users. So almost everybody on the project is using MX on a daily basis, and that goes a long way to getting things sorted for folks when there are issues. I'm using it right now. I usually do this show when I'm running off a live USB, but I didn't have one handy this time with Discord, so we're running on the installed system this time.
So are you, which version do you run, the XFCE, KDE, or Flexbox?
Well, I have the strange distinction of having all three. I primarily use XSCE, but and most of my customizations for my own usage are related to Thunar, actually. But I've been running the KDE desktop here lately, trying to sort out what I thought was going to be an issue with Wayland and our dual-init system, and it turned out to be the login manager in the dual-init system. So SDDM is the KDE login manager that we're using, the display manager, and there was a race condition that was only showing up for a few people, and we couldn't pin it down. And finally, we had somebody on the dev team had the problem, and we were able to sit down and hammer on it until we discovered the issue. Then we pushed out the fix to everybody, and now it's fixed. So yeah, I normally run XFCE. I've been running KDE quite a lot. I don't run FlexVox very much, just to make sure things are working.
Well, what can go wrong with Flexbox, really?
Mostly it's when you screw around with the startup file and you put things on the wrong place, because the very last line of the startup file is start Flexbox, and if you put anything after it, things break.
No.
Or if you forget to put an ampersand so that you fork something into the universe, Flexbox just never starts, it just sits there. It's a tinkerer's window manager.
Yeah. For sure.
It doesn't change much, though.
Yeah. So what I'm curious about is, so those that are checking out or that have tried MX Linux, what version, or I should say, which ISOs was used? So I think Jinda, he's a huge MX fan. I think he preaches it every week. So was he KDE or is he XFCE?
Oh, right now I'm running KDE.
Okay. And I
decided to try Wayland.
Okay, and
That's Michael approved.
I have absolutely no complaints to it. The only thing that it does every once in a while is, because I have two monitors, my mouse doesn't want to go to the second one for a split second, I noticed. You know what I mean? It has that little bit of delay when it's on the one screen to the next.
No. That's actually on purpose.
That's
I know it is, but it's just
But turn it off. I hate it so much.
I can turn it off.
That's a printer thing for Windows snapping, right?
I don't know why they said there was a reason for it, but it's either it's to a high setting, or I just don't want it at all. But it's in the system settings for it's called Edge Barrier. So if you just search for barrier, you can find that feature, and by default it's 100 milliseconds. So you have to move it 100 or not you have to give it like an extra bump to go past the barrier to get to the next monitor. So if you move it really quickly, it won't stop at all. But if you do it slow enough, it will catch it on the barrier. And I turn it off because I can't stand it.
Wait, is this the?
Yeah, I can't stand it either.
Is it the borders around it? So the stickiness around the edge? Is that what you're talking about?
The stickiness of the monitor itself. So each monitor has its own stickiness. So if you move your mouse to the edge of the monitor, between the two, if you have multiple monitors, if you have many, it gets even more annoying. And it'll just kind of grab onto it depending on how fast you move the mouse. So if you move it slowly, like most people just move their mouse pretty slowly, it will grab onto it. And this is so people can more easily put Windows to the snapping, I guess. But I never had a problem with Windows in the first place, so I don't know why that was necessary. But I feel like they put the threshold too high, so more people are running into it than really should. Because if you have to move it at the mouse speed of 100 milliseconds, which feels to me like way too high, and 10-15 is what it should be. If someone goes that slow, then maybe. But yeah. I think that the speed is too high.
So, Jinda, I put a link to an article I wrote about that.
Oh, okay, thanks.
And
it's only my only complaint.
It's not too bad a complaint, thanks to.
Yeah, that's not an MX thing at all. That's a KDE thing. And I've hopefully we can get KDE to change that, because I don't know why.
Yeah, well, I hope they leave it in because it has a really good secondary effect for me that when I play a game in a borderless window on one monitor, there was no other way to stop that I could find to stop the mouse from leaking off. So I'd be in the middle of my game thinking, why isn't my character moving? It's because my mouse has gone to the screen on the left. But now when I play, I deliberately turn it up so that a random wandering to the left-hand screen doesn't remove the mouse from the gameplay. So for me, it's an added bonus. And then when I finish the game, I go back in and in fact, I turn it off because I find it infuriating as well. But it's perfect for gaming in borderless windows.
Right. I think that is a fantastic use case I have never heard of before. So very good point. And I think that it should exist. It just should not be as high as it is on by default. And Eris provided details that I was wrong. Seconds. That's something to do with the other sections in that settings. It's by pixels, so it's an extra 100 pixels that you have to move your mouse in order to get to the other monitor. So it just kind of like a lot of people just kind of move it to the edge where because you're just used to it immediately going to the next monitor, and you actually have to move it an extra 100 pixels before it will go to that monitor, and that should be like at most 10 pixels by default or off by default. But being on for having a feature like this for the gaming thing that Zeb said, I think is a fantastic use case for this. But that is such a rare use case. It should not be this high on default.
Yeah, I agree. It was actually kind of frustrating because I have multiple monitors, obviously, and so like I would get stuck. And it was pretty infuriating actually until I figured out how to adjust that. So yeah, I agree, Michael. You have to pull whatever strings you got and get them to adjust that.
I mean, I've tried, but
but
maybe I got more strings now.
It's like all of these. Any settings that a company sets, there will be a section of the community that doesn't like it. The fact that you can change it makes it really, really good. So, and I'm not using KDE at the moment, by the way. I'm using the XFCE version and always will, because had Peppermint not been there in the day, then MX would have been my go-to and is still my go-to now. I mean, I've only just come back into distro hopping and I spent a mad month jumping all over the place. And I said, do you know what? Let's just go to MX because it works and I know how to play with it and I know how to adjust it. And for me at the moment, that's it. I've got a W on one disk and MX on the other. And apart from the occasional where we might do a distro research like we happen to do on MX, it's never coming off again. That's it. I'm done distro hopping, trying to find the best solution. So as long as you never make MX Wayland, then I'm going to be all good. Because Wayland just does my head in. So please keep X11 going as long as you can.
So I don't want to burst your bubble, and I can't speak for Dolphin because I don't know what their plans are. But I do think that Wayland is like Thanos. It's inevitable. And also is going to break half of the systems.
Well,
Let me take you back.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on, Dolphin.
So Wayland is an interesting case because there's not, unlike the X server, the X11 server, there's not one Wayland. There's a bunch of libraries, but everybody's Wayland's a little bit different. And
that's true.
So right now, our KDE is defaulting to Wayland. Installing a video drivers is a little weird. You got to have some extra. Currently under Debian, you got to you have to have some extra what do you call them, kernel boots options set up so that the Wayland will load on. Otherwise, it won't log in. It's SDDM just won't log in. And I swear some of this is the complicated part where SDDM, the display manager, is still running on X no matter if you launch Wayland or not. SDDM is X. I presume that the announced new Plasma Display Manager will run in its own little Wayland session, kind of like the way the GNOME GDM Display Manager does. But we'll see when it comes out. It's not ready for us yet. But yeah, Wayland can be a little weird. But I'm gonna tell you, I run the KDE Wayland nonstop when I'm testing. I have been for the last few weeks testing out this stuff that I mentioned earlier, and it's been pretty good. Yeah, I can't fault it. It's been pretty good. I'm not as heavy a game player as Deb, though. I don't have those kinds of issues just yet. My gaming needs are simpler.
The thing about Wayland is gaming.
Situation of this one.
Yeah. Oh, I was just saying the thing about Wayland and gaming is some of the wine versions are still X only. So you have to have X Wayland and all that kind of stuff, and sometimes it just doesn't work. I have that problem a lot if I'm running Wayland. What?
I've seen performance better in Wayland for some games. Like it depends on
some
the games. For sure. Mm-hmm. But that's true for everything. It depends on the game.
Also, I found that some versions of DOSBox do not work in Wayland at all. I do a lot of DOSBox work, a lot of DOSBox stuff, and some like DOSBox SVN. No. The original version of DOSBox, no Wayland at all. It won't even run in X Wayland.
I mean, that kind of makes sense. When was the last time DOSBox was updated? 5 years ago?
About 10 years ago.
Well,
it makes sense.
That makes sense.
It makes sense, but DOSBox X and DOSBox SVN work just fine.
So I've been using,
but those are X.
I'll tell you that
as well. What?
No. So there's
SVN and staging. Yeah, SVN and staging.
So it works just fine. I'm running Wayland with DOSBox on. I've been running DOSBox on Wayland for about 3 years now. I haven't had any issues with it. In fact, sometimes what I do is I'll put Windows 3.11 up, and I'll just walk away from my computer and just see what happens.
Just because?
I've done that before.
Just because.
You're sick man, Nate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right, so
anyway, Wayland is coming, and even XFCE is going to have Wayland because they're already working on a compositor for Wayland. Eventually, maybe there'll be only Wayland. But at the beginning, once the Wayland compositor comes out, it's definitely going to have like a combination of Wayland and X. But who knows? Eventually, maybe it's going to be just Wayland because we're at a situation where that is going to happen eventually for most distros or most desktops.
Yeah.
Not everybody, because people will, hold on to certain things. Like i3 will never be.
Prediction. Yeah, I'm going to make the same prediction that I made 10 years ago. And I'm going to say to you, let's revisit this subject in 10 years' time, and we'll still see if Wayland's still ready. Because at the moment, although it is 1,000,000 times better than it was, it's still not ready.
I don't think that that's necessarily wrong, but I also don't think that's fair either. Because a lot of people give Wayland a hard time because it's not ready yet. And maybe it's not ready yet, but also I'm just saying it's inevitable. Regardless of when it happens, it's going to happen. And maybe it doesn't happen anytime soon. Maybe it happens in a few years. Who knows? But it is going to happen because that's the plan. For the people who make Wayland are the same people who make X. And they've already decided it's happening. It's just a matter of when. So I'm just saying that it's inevitable regardless. But I also think that people don't give Wayland enough, respect the fact that it is a very difficult thing to make, and it took 22 years for X to be viable, and people don't remember that part because
I get all that. I'm just making the same sort of comment that for the average everyday user, it's probably fine. But then Dolphin will tell you, I've always been that niche case user that can find the most awkward things to ask about, and it was even Dolphin back in the day when I first got my RTX 4070, and it was by Zotac, and it was Dolphin who found that NVIDIA forgot to tell everybody about the Zotac one, which is why my NVIDIA
PCIe out of the NVIDIA driver. I know. It did not tell which driver to use. So we built a
Yeah.
freaking fallback into our driver installer tool. I call it the Zeb patch, so that if it can't figure out what video card it's on, it's just going to offer you the latest one, because I didn't know what else to do. Yeah, but that's the Zeb patch. I think it's actually in the Git commit somewhere.
I was going to say that's the way most.
The beauty of MX, the forums listen. They've got so many knowledgeable people on the forums that can help you decipher what your problems are. And I don't think I've ever come across a problem that wasn't solved in a minimum of 2 weeks with anything I had with MX. It's awesome, and its community is awesome. And I can't sing its praises enough.
Oh, thank you very much. We're pretty proud of the community. We have a very diverse group of people in there, and they're just, for the most part, they're just great. I love working with all of them.
So a couple things, Michael. XFCE does have a Wayland compositor that has been released, because I'm running Ubuntu 25.10, and there is a Wayland session available for XFCE on this, and it does work. There are lots of bugs in it. What?
I believe it's using LabWC as the back end, and all the settings tools work with it. If you get in XFCE settings enough, you will find yourself not changing settings, because the settings tools work with XWFM4 or XF. You know the one, the default XF Window Manager.
WL.
Whatever it is.
Okay.
They're not good at naming stuff.
That's real esoteric. So it was just a bunch of consonants stringed together. We'll throw a number that means nothing at the end. It's fine. But anyway, it is experimental. It's available for MX2, but I stripped it out because it is not. Our core audience are not experimenters. So we took out the session.
Came out no one should be trying that yet, because they just started working on it really, and it's super experimental. So the Ubuntu uses that LabWC because this didn't exist at the last release. Like, this has only been out for maybe a month.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that kind of makes sense why I was having issues changing the settings. Okay, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yep, that's it. And then, just don't.
Okay, and as far as not XFCE, MX Linux goes, I actually was testing out the Fluxbox in a VM. Now, some of the issues I had, I'm just going to discount because I know that they were VM issues, like I had to disable PyCom and all that stuff, because PyCom doesn't play nice with VirtualBox. It never has. But there were a couple things I did. I broke Fluxbox by changing the configuration a little bit, because I did the same thing by putting something after Fluxbox, and it didn't want to work after that. But couple things that I kind of thought were a little strange and a little different with MX is, number one, the Prodcom proprietary drivers are always installed unless you uninstall them. Those tend to take a little bit of time in VMs to build, so I had to disable those because I wasn't using them. Is there any particular reason why you don't make that an option to install? What?
Because it's very difficult to install Broadcom drivers if you don't have an internet connection. So it's much better for users to have an internet connection, and there are a lot of Broadcom parts. In particular, the Broadcom part in this laptop right here that do not work with the open source drivers. So you get WL. And
also, Broadcom drivers are pretty solid.
It is a DKMS driver, right? It's a dynamic kernel module. So it has to build every time you update the kernel. There's an MX cleanup tool with the DKMS Wi-Fi driver removal tool in it. So you can nuke them all automatically. It's not just Broadcom. Depending on which version you have, you may also have Realtek drivers. I don't think those are on the Fluxbox one, but I think they are on the XFCE one. But you don't need the Realtek drivers if you're north of 6.12 kernel. But you still need them on 6.12, but they're in the later kernels. So on the default release, we still have those. So it'll remove those too if you don't need them, which mostly only comes up with those USB wireless parts. right? The ones you stick in the side of your computer. And again,
that makes
it's
sense.
very difficult to get a Wi-Fi driver if you don't have a network connection. And a lot of laptops, us old guys, right? We would just get the Ethernet cable out and plug it into the side of the computer. Well, guess what else doesn't exist?
The
Ethernet cables. It was jacks. I mean, you can get a USB one, but not many people got those laying around the house.
I was actually going to say I really appreciate that was bundled in there, because when I was installing MX on this MacBook, because I had to upgrade it to something not Mac, like you had to have the Broadcom drivers. It means like right out of the gate, I didn't have to do anything. It's all set up, and I could use the thing even during the installation process. It was all right there. So I thought that was actually a really nice addition. That was actually a comment I was going to make about that.
We originally had a tool. This kind of goes back to the MX14, MX15 days. We actually had a tool it was originally called Broadcom Assistant. It's now called Network Assistant. And it's kind of the spiritual successor to a tool that Mepis had. And the original goal of the tool was to help people get the right freaking Broadcom driver installed for their part. And then one of our other dev team members, A. Mather, and they're still around. You'll see him in the forums from time to time. He came up with this great way to say, let's just check the parts, the PCID. We know which part is going to not use the thing, and everything else will. So it's installed and enabled by default, and we'll disable it if we find like the 10 parts that use the thing. We disable it. Like everything else uses WL. So it's. Yeah, I know. I get the old logic, and it's a little bit murky from the free software standpoint. But on the other hand, you get guys like Nate who throw it on a MacBook and it just works. And I get post after post after post about that on Reddit. And that's why it's there. And it takes a little while to build. I don't know what to tell you. It's better than not having it.
Well, if I was running on my 16-core system, it'd only take a second to build. But I guess I'm just too used to like the Debian and the Ubuntu way, where they just install it whenever it detects the hardware. I guess I'm spoiled. But I was just like, why is these things on here? I'm like, I didn't tell it to install Broadcom. Apparently, you've got We've got the MX cleanup tool. I guess I didn't find that because I cleaned it out myself. But but I was just like,
the tool setup's a little bit different.
Dock. Okay.
Yeah.
Also, the dock was a little weird.
The dock is a little weird. Flexbox doesn't usually have a dock
because well, with what you were using, I couldn't figure out how to make it like auto hide when you maximize, and then if you go up to where the dock is, it pulls it above. It would always pull behind the window. I'm like, that. Well, this thing is useless. So I ripped it out and put it plank in its place because I couldn't figure it out.
It's the Tint 2 panel, I think. And I'm not the best at configuring the thing, but there is a manager in the Fluxbox toolset for managing it. But it's a little weird.
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out. I was just like, so I put something in there. But other than that, I actually like it. I actually liked MX Linux, especially the Fluxbox. I just tried Fluxbox because I use XFCE every day on my mainline production machine. So I'm just like, I'm going to try something different right now because XFCE to me is just different dressing. It's all the same stuff. So I'm like...
So I have some questions, Dolphin, specifically around back to that internet system. So I don't feel like we kind of totally fleshed out that. So I just some other little things. So you changed the... give like this init diversity thing yet, which is pretty cool. So for most users, when it starts up for installation, if they don't know systemd or SysVinit, I mean, I did, I'm with systemd, but I didn't remember exactly. Is there a default, like it'll automatically go into one or the other when you go to install it?
No. Right now, you have to pick one.
Okay.
Now, SysV is listed at the top. And the logic was, if you didn't know, you just pick the one at the top. Mm-hmm. That was our classic default. Almost everything in the live system works under systemd, but not everything. The live system is still a little bit better under SysVinit.
Okay.
Mostly because, for reasons that I don't quite understand, systemd I haven't found a way to get an interactive console. We haven't found a way to get an interactive console during shutdown, which is important for some of the persistence features. The so-called semi-automatic mode. If anybody messed around with persistence, you may or may not have been offered. Actually, on this release, none of you are probably offered, because the dual-init system has the same freaking problem on the SysVinit side, and that's like the only bug left in the dual-init system that we've confined is we can't get the interactive console. We can get the console, we just can't you can't do anything with it. It presents the information, but it doesn't actually. Systemd side doesn't even present the information; it just shuts down. The other side, it will freeze and just won't shut down anymore. It's very irritating. So we haven't figured that part out yet. So if you're running dual-init, it won't present you with the so-called semi-automatic mode, which just asks you if you want to save your persistence file and shut down. We default to automatic in that case. Even if you had come from an earlier version and installed the dual-init stuff and were pre-configured with the semi-automatic, it will still default to automatic on shutdown if the dual-init's detected, because we just can't get a console shutdown. But getting back to your question, it doesn't particularly matter which one you pick, which is kind of the point. We have always been a NIT system agnostic. Yeah, the system defaulted to SysVinit. A lot of people will tell you MX has been systemd is a non-systemd distro. From the time that Debian adopted it, we have had it. The only release that was systemd free was MX14. And fun fact, it was also 32-bit, not 64. So, just side note, it was really old because it ran on netbooks, which weren't 64-bit. So you can pick either one. And like I said, when you run the installer is smart enough to enable services, do the things that the installer needs to do, and it doesn't matter which one you picked. And when you reboot, you'll get whichever one you picked. Which wasn't the case on earlier editions, is the case now. And you we're set up package-wise in such a way that you shouldn't have to worry about updates hosing the system.
So I actually like the new of NIT system. Oh, you go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, so on that, are there anything so you can run Flatpaks no problem with the SysVinit? Is there anything that causes any issues with Flatpak?
No, the one thing reason we had Flatpak support built into our package manager, quite frankly, longer than most people have had Flatpak support built into their package managers, but I digress, is because it worked on... Flatpak doesn't care what in its system you do. It doesn't, at the moment, it doesn't have hooks that require systemd. It uses the classic core utils tools. It does some mounting. Oh, let's use mount and the lib mount and all that stuff. It's not using system control from systemd land to do all that stuff. Snaps do. Now you can run snaps on MX if you're running systemd, but you can't if you're running SysVinit. That's just how it is. You can't do it.
Yeah. And so a person who would want to run running this, they would know to go to systemd anyway, because they're obviously more of a tinker anyway if they want to run snaps on MX Linux. There's probably some background there anyway.
Well, I mean, it's not Ubuntu, right? So right. I mean, but they do work. There's a couple of shooter games in snap form that I've played on. They work fine. You got a lot of people expect the level of containment that Ubuntu has. And if that's important to you, fine. I'm going to say that on a user's desktop system that part's not that important. But whatever. The snaps are there. You can't do them live either, because whatever AppArmor rules Snaps uses that are auto-generated conflict with our live system. So you can't use it on the live system anyway. You can use Flatpaks. So Flatpaks it's kind of desktop user-oriented anyway, so it makes sense. Yeah, so that's where Flatpaks come in. They got no problems either way. Yeah, actually, you can run Flatpaks on a lot of things. Just one. You just need the portal system packages installed, and you're good to go.
Now, the next thing I want to ask you about is the updated kernels in your graphics stack. So I know that you're shipping. You have two different kernel versions you ship, which I think this is very interesting. You can choose the advanced hardware support version or the standard one. So when did you start doing the hardware support? I know that last time we did this, I know it was there, but how long ago was it that the advanced hardware support became a thing?
It's been a while, but I believe they came about sometime during the MX17 series, which was the first series I worked on, 17 and 18, and the as the builder, I guess, of the ISO. My train of thought is derailing at the station. Honestly, yeah. Ask your question again. I lost it.
So when did you start doing that? The advanced hardware support.
Oh, the AHS release. So actually, Michael is related to this, although he may not know it. I was watching Destination Linux one day, and Ryan and some other members of the team very famously went on a rant about how slow certain distros, mostly Ubuntu, were getting hardware support. That's not something Michael would do. But that's definitely something Ryan would do.
That does not sound like a thing I would do.
That doesn't sound like something you would do. Okay. So
I mean, I remember doing it. That's not something that sounds like.
Yeah. So we started the repo first. So we had the repo, and if you had the thing, you could enable it and get the bigger kernels and the Mesa. Mesa was the big one because Mesa's. You don't want to let that thing out willy-nilly into the Debian ecosystem. It's not always the same. And Mesa drops hardware support for things sometimes, and it's a big no-no in Debian world to break people's graphics stack while they're using the system. So we said, let's put all that stuff into a repo that you got to manually enable. At least then, okay, if you get in trouble, you did something to get yourself in trouble, okay? So we had the kernels. The kernels went into it later, actually. We were running the kernels at the time in the main repo, but the kernels went in later. The Mesa's in there, certain DKMS drivers that were required to build on the kernels. We got VirtualBox. We got all kinds of packages that had to be updated when the kernels update are in there. And that was during the 17 series. So that's been a while. And it's been pretty, I won't say it's the most popular aspect of the project, but when you get, the reason we started releasing an ISO that was pre-enabled with the AHS ISO is because people would like to say, I can't get a desktop. The Nouveau driver is a big hang-up for people with NVIDIA cards. If you can't get into a desktop, what are you going to do? Now, never mind the fact that on MX, that's why our installer, our NVIDIA driver tool is text-based, so you can actually install the proprietary drivers from a console rather than needing the graphical. But our installer at the time was totally graphical, so nobody could install. So we started making this ISO with the newer kernels. And it came into effect for the Radeon parts too. Remember, AMD was going open source at the time with the AMD GPU driver. So that was the other reason to do it. AMD was releasing cards faster than Debian was updating kernels. And that was very important because the drivers are now what? They're in the kernel, right? So you can't get a up-to-date AMD driver unless you update your kernel. You just can't. And the same thing for Mesa. So that's where it went. So that's why that came out. Then when we brought KDE out later, we pre-enabled the AHS repo on KDE as well because it benefits from the graphics acceleration improvements that come down the pike in Mesa. But it uses a standard kernel so that it didn't in the past, but now the standard kernel editions can boot on secure boot systems. So that's where it came about. That's why it came about. And that's the one I run. And you can turn any release into an Oz release by just enabling the repo and doing a dist upgrade.
So if you're running Fluxbox and you want that advanced hardware support, you can do that. Is what you're saying?
You absolutely can, and there are people that do. Because there were people that run Fluxbox on just released Radeon AMD cards, and 100% that's true.
So you can change anything to it, but by default, XFCE is the only one that has it. Did I hear that right?
No, the KDE release does too. It just doesn't have the kernel. It's got all the Mesa parts and all the other parts, but it doesn't have the kernel.
But you can
easy enough to
admit
add,
you have the
but
kernel warped. Okay.
yeah, all the
I
kernels are
also
listed
like
in
the
our
fact that
package
it's
manager.
called. I love that you're calling it Oz. Oz.
Yes, it's Oz. I wish I came up with it, but I didn't. It was our one of our package team guys, Steve-O. He's active in the Debian community, and he came in. It was like Oz, like the land of Oz, and then he was like, well, let's make it AHS, and we'll still call it Oz. So okay.
Nice.
I think that's perfect. Now,
And whoever maintains it is the Wizard of Oz.
That would be, for the most part, Steve-O, and he kind of is a packaging wizard. Most of the stuff that comes back from us comes from the SID repo, and we backport it. It's not just bringing the packages down. Like it can be dangerous installing things from SID and testing into the Debian stable because the libraries don't quite match up, and you'll break something down the road if you're not careful. So we actually backport everything to. We used to say our testing and Oz repo together had more backports in it than Debian backports. I don't think that's true anymore because they've upped their game, but it feels true sometimes. But we backport it to the Debian stable branch so that the libraries don't conflict, and that kind of thing's important.
Now, moving to
The biggest hassle with Oz. Go ahead.
No. You're
The biggest hassle with Oz is is jumping kernel versions. So when we go from 6.18 to 6.19 here, we're testing 6.19 right now. There's a lot of stuff we have to update that will, especially the DKMS packages, we have to update so they'll be 6.19 kernel, and that takes time. So we're working through that right now. Right now, I think we're primarily waiting on NVIDIA drivers right now. Right now, they don't build on the 6.19.
So my next question is going to be about moving to the 13.3 Trixie base. And when that happened, you had to drop all 32-bit support. That's pretty much the end of it then for MX at this point?
Okay. Yes and no. We're still building all of our packages for 32-bit. You still have all the 32-bit backend stuff, so you can run things like Steam, which has a lot of 32-bit, integration. But as far as main desktop releases, yes, we don't have a 32-bit release right now. Antix still does. They're building, I think it's the 5.10 kernel still, for 32-bit systems. And we're still maintaining packages for the 23 series, so we still have a 32-bit there as well, that there are a lot of people still using. Actually, you can see it in our download numbers towards the end of the 23 series. As other distros started dropping their 32-bit support, the 32-bit MX release actually became our second most downloaded ISO. It was the XFCE and then the 32-bit XFCE. It was even beating the KDE ISO, which was crazy. But KDE had already jumped from 5.27 into the 6 series, so that had slowed down just because nature happens. People want higher numbers. We would still have it if we could reliably build a kernel that works with everything else. And right now that's tricky. Technically, I could probably build one with that Annex 510 kernel, and for 32-bit users who don't have newer hardware, that's probably good enough. But other parts of the system are starting to drop support. For like the older Intel graphics cards, you're going to see that start to trickle away, and things like that. The i915 kernel driver. Let me think for a second. Which that's not because I'm saying it wrong. Like right now, we are having some users with even older 64-bit systems with NVIDIA graphics. We have to have them turn off their graphics acceleration if they're like a 340 series type card, like the old. I mean, Debian hasn't maintained those drivers forever. We still maintain them. They're hit or miss at the moment, but a lot of people are having success. But you got to turn the graphics acceleration off on Nouveau to get a desktop. Things will happen, and we had to drop. We dropped 32-bit because, quite frankly, we're not big enough a team to take on.
That makes sense. What do you say there, Penguin?
I was going to say, as far as the NVIDIA side goes, I have an old NVIDIA card in this laptop here. The reason why a lot of time why Nouveau's dropping support for those old ones is because NVIDIA's dropping support for them too. I mean, they just killed the driver for that old NVIDIA code 2.5 years ago because it was using 390. So a lot of times when NVIDIA rips that out, and Nouveau will rip that support right out too. I've found that. Too.
Yeah, the nice thing about Nouveau, though, is that, okay, they drop it, but it doesn't make it into the kernel for a while. You know, Debian kernels stick around for a long time. So you can live with it that way a little bit. But they're like the NVIDIA 590 drivers are going to do it again. They're going to drop 2 more architectures in 590. So we have to be careful when we pump stuff into the Oz repo. You know, what are we going to break for people? Right now we've got 580 drivers, but what are we going to break when 590 goes in? Is somebody with a marginal with an older card, is that going to quit working? That's why Debian doesn't update their drivers very often. You know, Debian 12 was 535 forever, right? Well, yeah, because 550 dropped support for architecture, and they don't break their current users. That's important to understand why the drivers roll. They get a lot of hack for having old drivers, but they also don't break things. So that's important. You end up with no graphics if you get a driver sucked out, because it will update. The app system will update that driver. It does not care that it doesn't work with the card. It will update the system. So you got to be really careful when you package them.
Yeah, that's also what I like about the Ubuntu system is that if you're running an old driver, a lot of times, unless you tell it to update that NVIDIA driver, it won't. Because there was one time when I was running that on Ubuntu, and I wasn't paying attention. And I said update the NVIDIA driver, it completely broke my system.
It'll do it.
A lot of times, though, yeah.
I think we should all
that's
adopt
what I also
Facebook
love about Debian. But if you're running what?
I was just saying that we should all adopt Facebook's theory of move fast, break things.
Yeah,
I think there was a job I worked at.
That's one of the reasons why I don't do ouch.
Fail fast.
So exactly, because you can always fix your failure, but you got to do it quickly.
Yeah,
right. So I had some other questions around some of the MX tools. It seems like you've expanded quite a few of the MX tools. Is this true, or did I just miss it before? So, for instance, like the Trut rescue scan, that seemed, I don't remember that being there before. Maybe I just missed it last time.
Okay, it's been there, but a lot of people I don't know what happened, but there's been several people that are starting to find it. It's amazingly useful. So, and you can do it not only from a live USB, but you can use it from an installed system if you got more than one Linux on your system, on your computer. Like none of you would multi-boot, I'm sure. But if you were multi-booting and you wanted the CH root into another system, sometimes that, maybe you don't remember the command, maybe you're new, you don't know what to do, you still got to fix something. CH root rescue scan will scan all your drives, find all the installations that it can CH root into, offer you the one, help you do that, and now you can do maintenance on the system. This comes up quite often in the forum when people break their graphics stack or can't get past the fact, or do something that their login manager is looping, or there's weird things that can happen as Linux, right? So people break things. Mm-hmm. My personal favorite at the moment is systemd absolutely having a cow when a drive is defined in the fstab file that isn't actually connected to the computer. It will freak out and not. But you whip out your USB, you got your CH root rescue scan, you go in there, you comment the line out, done. You're back in business. It's very fast. It's a very useful tool. I'm glad you found it. It's a very useful tool. I use it all. I use it all the time when I'm especially in testing mode, when I'm breaking things and need to fix them before I get back into the system.
So what you're saying is, if you break your Arch system, just run a live install of MX Linux, and then you can put it back together.
Actually, yeah, you can.
Yeah, I have experience with that. It's one of the main reasons why I keep MX Linux on a USB or anything around here, is because I've used it to save multiple systems where I've done something terrible. One of them, I used it a couple of times trying to get my 390 drivers working on Debian 13. I did manage to get it working, pulling it from SID, but as you can imagine, when you play with SID, you're going to get burned more than a few times. So I use their tools all the time. I think it's the best thing about the distro.
Thank you. That's very nice to hear.
You actually got 390 drivers to work in Debian 13.
It is possible, yes. It is a pain in the butt, and I would not walk in. I have a repo where I kind of outlined how I did it, but it's not something I would do for the faint of heart. I have 2 ThinkPads that both use old Quadros that need it. I have a T420 and a W520 that both need it.
Wow.
But I mean,
I've got one.
Yeah. But yeah, with like the T420, I think I saved it 3 times with the MX tools. And so it's handy to have around, especially first times
I've
like
got
that.
one of those T420s. Those are great laptops. That is like the best keyboard on a ThinkPad ever. Yeah, I can see why you want to keep it alive.
Well, and it's the second one I've had, so I'll keep it brief. But the first one I had it for about 20 minutes. I got it from my brother. He got it from some auction. And we didn't do anything to it. I was like, I was going to install, I think at the time I was into Gruda Linux. That was the new hotness. And I tried to install it, and the computer actually caught fire in my kitchen. I saw smoke coming up through the keyboard and whatnot. And so I immediately pulled the power out of the back, flipped it up on the side. My parents were angry because the whole kitchen smelled like smoke. And come to think of it, there was a fly that had gotten in the exhaust vent and had crawled its way across onto the circuit board somewhere, and it grounded across it, and then it just caused a fire at that point, melted the board. So about, I guess probably 3 or 4 years ago, I found another T420 in an auction. Cosmetically, it's not in the best shape, but hardware-wise, it's in excellent shape. It's a nice i5 model. I've got 16 gigs of RAM in it. I put a battery in it. Still runs great.
So
they're great computers. Those are great computers.
Not as nice.
They have like this. If you're like a track,
that makes
like
sense though.
Fly tape, and then that should protect your ThinkPad.
I'll just wrap it in the fly tape. That way nothing can get in.
That won't be inconvenient at all to your fingers. Wow.
There you go, Nate. That's your next 3D printing job. A cover for the intake valve to stop flies getting inside and blowing up ThinkPads.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that'll do it. That'll not cause any issues with that NVIDIA card at all.
It'll solve that problem, but also create the other problem of getting overheated and still cause smoke.
Screen will start showing rainbows,
But also, it's kind of funny that it was Garuda that it happened with because of the Dragonized, and it's Dragon Spitfire. So they must have.
Yeah, it's actually the one that was in my RGB vomit phase, where everything had to have RGB and be flashy and whatnot. I've long since given that up.
I mean, that's not a phase. You get extra 5 frames per second just with RGB. So you should.
I mean,
We've proven that.
Rainbows.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. Actually, I'm starting to get back into the RGB, but it could be like a midlife crisis thing. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's pretty impressive what you did with Debian 13, because that's the reason why I retired that other laptop, was because of the 390 drivers. I couldn't get them to boot to load on any new Linux distro. I just eventually gave up and retired it.
So if it tells you anything, the pain and suffering the T420 went through, I basically took the drive out of it for the W520. They're basically the same hardware. It's just the W520 can take more RAM than the T420 can. I took the hard drive out of it, put it in a hard drive toaster, and cloned it because I couldn't be bothered to try and go through that process again to reinstall the NVIDIA drivers and make that work.
Yeah.
So I just cloned it, renamed the host name, and then slapped it back in there, and they're both working on LMDE7. I'm just going to leave them alone, and then at some point down the road we'll deal with it again, because I got a message, tools, but I don't want to go down that road again.
I got a message from some of the guys in the running the Oz forum today that they actually have 390 drivers patched for the 6.19 kernel, so we're keeping them for a while yet.
So that's good
Nice.
because I think right now, otherwise, 6.12 is like end of the road for
Yeah.
getting those to compile. So that's good to hear. Maybe one of those is going to get MX then here in a while
I hope it.
So,
when we get that far.
I've never heard
Well,
the phrase hardware.
If it works in
toaster
MX, then I'd
and- or
probably
hard drive toaster, and I love it.
sounds delicious.
Because I'm like, I will resurrect
makes me
that
want a
laptop
Debian
if I can get 390 drivers going. I will resurrect that thing.
Yeah,
I love
I
that
don't really
thing.
need the NVIDIA driver for those, but that T420, all I do is use it for writing because, like Dolphin said, the keyboard is just great. I love that keyboard, and so that's kind of the big thing I use it for is just typing up documents and whatnot, writing up notes, writing stories, whatever. It's
That's
just really
good.
nice to have, and I have a working ThinkLight, so
I mean, if worse comes to worse, you could just take it apart and desolder the NVIDIA chip off of it and just use the integrated graphics.
well, you can disable
if that's
it in
what
the
you want to
BIOS
do.
at a hardware level. Both of them have you can go
okay,
to
you
the BIOS
can.
and turn off Optimus, and it's just the integrated. It's just Intel HD
Oh.
graphics from 2nd and 3rd gen is what I would call not good. I'll leave it at that.
Exactly.
Graphics
But
misery
the funny thing is, on this laptop, if you disabled Optimus, it'll default to the NVIDIA. It'll disable the integrated. It won't disable the NVIDIA chip, which is rather sucky. That's the way that BIOS works. I'm like, I wish it would just disable the NVIDIA chip, else I would still be using it.
So some other
I have that same. Sorry.
so some other thoughts about some of the MX tools. So I it does look like there's more as well. So they have is this new the UEFI manager? Is that a new tool as well, or has that been there for a while and I just missed that one also?
No, that one's relatively new. That came about because we were starting to add things to I forget which one, either the boot repair tool or the boot options tool. I think it was the boot options tool. And then where we could help people rearrange which UEFI was taking control. So you guys know unlike MBR, if you install multiple distros or multiple OSs on a computer, most of the time they can all share the same ESP partition. And but the last one installed is usually the one the system will boot. Not always, but usually it's the last one the system will boot. So we made a tool to help people rearrange those graphically. You can do it with a command line tool called EFI Boot Manager, MGR. You can do it in most systems. Graphical, UEFI settings, BIOS settings. You can do it there. But Adrian is our guru at making some of these stranger MX tools that turned out to be amazingly popular. And that particular tool has a couple other fun bits that are kind of unique to the Annex world, but that's the main one. It can rearrange, it can delete, it can make new ones, it can do a lot of those things. It can also make a frugal boot entry for Antix family systems for what's called frugal installs. So it'll just make a UEFI blob, I guess you call it, with a kernel in it and everything, and it'll boot the rest of the frugal system with that. I don't understand 100% the particulars of how that works, but you need a big ESP partition for that because the ESP files are usually really small, but these ones that allow you to boot the frugal system are larger. So it's got all kinds of weird little tools in it that are really nice. Yeah, that one's relatively new. It came out with the 23 series, but we don't tend to we don't ever really stop building the tools. We kind of keep iterating, and the benefit of having your own repository is when you're ready to push the thing out, you throw it in there and send it out in an update. So usually we can get the updates as we make features for the different tools. Package Manager is another one that gets new features all the time. But yeah, UEFI Manager, good eye. It's a relatively new tool. It might be the last one we've built actually. There might be one more. So I think that's the last one.
One thing that's really interesting about that is I have one machine that I cannot change the boot order, the UEFI, I don't know, that's a fun way to say it, UEFI, boot order.
I always spell it out, but yeah.
Yeah. That I can't, well, not the BIOS screen will not let me change the boot order. And so now I'm wondering if maybe this might be able to force that, and then I don't have to worry about that boot order. Again, it's an Atari VCS.
You can try it. Every now and then you'll find one that is hard locked. Okay. That you can't manipulate, but I think it'll error out if it can't manipulate it.
Okay.
It tends to happen with. Yeah, I really get it because I screw mine up all the time. So, and especially testing things like boot repair that makes slightly different entries than the installer does. That way we don't overwrite anything. And sometimes I just need something different. Or if I got multiple distros installed, I get the right one as my default, or I can switch back and forth. It's handy. I love the thing. It worked really nice. He did a good job with it.
Yeah. Plus, as you get older, it makes it easier than trying to remember all of those EFI boot manager -B, capital B, -0.
Let us build the commands for you. It's fine.
Exactly. Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. And if you're an avid distro hopper like I used to be, and I was a little while ago, trying to clean up the the EFI directory of something that you thought you'd given its own EFI directory, and then it decided it was going to use somebody else's, so that when you then delete that distro, the other one no longer works because you just deleted its EFI partition as well, and it was really, really frustrating. So that EFI boot manager is a godsend. It's absolutely brilliant.
You know, the destination Linux crowd, Zeb, you guys were complaining at one point about, and this was back in this might have been even back with Rocco and everyone. You were complaining that that most distros installers wouldn't let you choose a different ESP partition for each install, and I thought that is a great idea. So we went and did it. So the installer can choose. You can have as many, as long as you pick the right one. You can have 15 ESP partitions if you really, really want to. Our installer will accommodate that. But the one common feature of all UEFI systems is the non-volatile RAM, the NVRAM, that's on the motherboard that actually stores all those entries, and that's what UEFI manages. It doesn't really manage the stub folder itself. You can do that with a file manager if you want to, but the entry on the NVRAM, because you're not going to believe it, the distro hoppers will fill that up. And then they'll go, well, your installer won't install grub anymore. It's like, yeah, it's not going to install grub because your NVRAM's full. You have no more entries left. Go in UEFI Manager. You can do it from the live USB and delete everything you don't have installed anymore. Done. These are the things that a lot of Linux users in other distros would have to sit down and come up with a command line, like Jeb was saying, or like you guys were saying, big command line. Yeah, you can do it. You don't need it, and it's awfully nice when you do. It's awfully nice to have that point and click, because I don't know those commands. I don't even know what command runs in the background, but I can click use UEFI Manager to delete stuff.
Right. No,
it's a good one. I really like that tool.
Yeah, that's really neat. And there's a lot of other really neat tools too. And I just want to just to throw out there, I really like your your Journal D Explorer thing that you have as well under your the quick system info. That's a really neat tool.
I was hoping you would mention that one.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah, we added that. That was another one that Jerry wanted added.
Yep. So
the quick system info tool has a neat feature that you can copy anything that's in the window for the forum. And when you paste in the forum, it's already got the code tags around it, so it comes in as the text block in the box. You don't have to select, and I mean you can do that if you want to, but if you hit the copy for forum button, you can it does it for you, and you drop it right in, and it's so easy for getting the quick system info, which is really just INXI with a few odds and ends thrown in, and a bunch of filtering so that we don't get any personal identifiable information.
See, that's really neat. That's next level like support.
I think we even had the MAC addresses.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Well, the guys that I'm blessed to have two really good guys helping me work on that one, and Felix and a guy named AK47, which may be a troubling username for some people, but he's an awfully good guy. And they really took the filtering issue seriously. So it worked out pretty good. Yeah, the Journal D stuff is relatively new because we did that because we were like, we're going to have System D releases for MX25. We need to be able to access the journal. So we did.
And that seemed like a good place to put it too, right under that system info tool, a quick system info tool. So just put so it's a great way to get that as well. So
yeah, anyway, it's got the log viewer too.
Yeah, that's what I think is really neat because you can start searching the services very quickly from there. So I don't have to remember like what was the command in the terminal. That's great. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, so
you've just convinced me to. You just convinced me just to keep a USB stick of MX Linux just for the tools.
I keep one in my pocket.
Yeah,
you never know when you're going to be able to fix something.
Yep. As a sysadmin, it's definitely one of those things that just makes your life easy.
Yeah. So anyway, hats off to you there on all that. What also I want to say, I'm really glad you're sticking with the sidebar for for your menu, the menu bar on the side. I'm glad you're sticking with that. I know with tweaks it's very easy to put it to the bottom, but I really appreciate that because you're not chasing anybody else's look or whatever's popular. Just sticking with that, I think that's great. And then so I just want to point that out.
I like it too. I can't even use it. I even flip my KDE bar to the left now. Although the menu bar gets to the top instead of the bottom, but I don't know. Once you get used to having the screen real estate, it's hard to give it up.
Yeah, it's easy to move down.
Left side panel is actually
anybody with a widescreen monitor is going to love that because you can afford to lose some of the width, but you can't afford to lose the height because if you're running at 1440. You want all that 1440, but to lose a bit of 5120 is nothing. So yeah, it's and to flip it round so that MX is at the top of the window, not at the bottom of the window. That's quite easy to do as well.
When did you decide to do that side panel? When was that done?
That was done in 2014.
Nice.
Jerry wanted the side panel for his netbook. And so we did the side panel originally, and he wanted. So it's backwards, right? If you take the standard, like you can do this you can do it in anything. But if you take Ubuntu's bottom panel and make it on the right, the menu's and most everything else is at the bottom, but the menu's at the top, right? We did that first, and he was like, that's not where the menu is. On Windows or in many other things, or when the panel's on the bottom, the menu is in the lower left-hand corner. So we want the menu in the lower left-hand corner. So we made the vertical panel that's a little bit, it's not actually reversed, it's just different. And it's got the menu panel on the bottom, because that's where he wanted it. He was like, we go to the bottom, you can click the menu, you get it. We thought this was brilliant. Until users tried it. Now, I love users. I obviously love users. I wouldn't be in this business if I didn't love users. But users either loved the panel or hated it. There is no middle ground. So one of the first MX tools we actually put together, besides the ones we inherited from the Mepis distro that Adrian ported over, was one called Default Look. And Default Look, all it did was change the themes from light and dark. That's all it did. Well, Jerry's like, well, we need to be able to make the panel. We want to add making the panel to the top and bottom. And I was like, okay. So we started messing around with it, and we realized that we completely screwed up the panel configuration because you can't just flip it down with XFCE's tools because it's in the wrong order. You end up with the menu on the right if you do that, and it's very weird. So, but XFCE's settings are such that you can get everything you need, the order of the plugins, what plugins are there. And everything. So we wrote an algorithm to rearrange the panel when you flip it. And I think if you look at tweaks, MX tweaks icon, it still has the little arrow on it that flips things left and right. It was the icon from the original panel orientation app. And somewhere in the code for that, it says reverse the entries and pray. And then it flips the panel. And for the most part, if you're using the default configurations, you'll never have a problem. But because it does some other things like the window buttons, it changes it so the text is visible, and some other things because you got a wider panel available. It does some other things. But for the most part, it takes the menu and rearranges it based on where other plugins are located. And as plugins changed over time, that got slightly more complicated. So far, it's holding up pretty good. Now, if you run 2 panels, I suggest adding the second panel after you get the main panel where you want it, because something will get broke. Because all the panel settings are in the same file, and it's hard to tell them apart. But so I think 15. I think the very next release, I think we had the panel flipper, so that people could put it on the bottom, and it's. When we polled in the forums several years ago about asking which way to use it, and it was so tight we just left it. So we're gonna leave it where it was. It says some people came here because they saw a picture with a vertical panel and thought we were the right kind of crowd. So I guess, well, I'm happy they're there.
The incumbent wins. Well, awesome.
I internally call it Jerry mode now.
So I have a question. I never realized about MX this. I mean, most this live ISOs, you install things and you remove things, and it doesn't transfer over to installation. But that's not the way MX is, right? Like I remove LibreOffice from the live install, and then that's what gets installed into the new system. And I just wanted to point that out because most live ISOs, it doesn't really matter what you do. Whatever's going to install, it's going to install what it was meant to install beforehand.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
our image is not static. You're right. We install whatever is running on the fly.
Yeah, but it doesn't do it by default. You have to make sure that you tick the little box that says, remember what I've done to my live USB.
Well, that's for stuff in the home folder. If you remove LibreOffice while you're running the operating system and then install it, LibreOffice will not be installed.
Right, okay.
It installs the running file system. It doesn't install a compressed image that's stored elsewhere. It's a little weird because you end up with drivers you might not necessarily need. But on the other hand, we have the whole ecosystem with the snapshot and the live and the remasters and all those things where you can build your own snapshot. And we want those snapshots to be relatively universal to go from machine to machine. So it doesn't hurt to have those drivers there. Most of them are in the kernel anyway. There's only like 3 or 4 DKMS drivers that are not. So it works out pretty good. But yeah, we that's one reason the installer is so fast, is it doesn't actually do that much in the way of decompression. It just kind of dumps whatever's running.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I were to go into a USB image and just remove those DKMS drivers from the image, just leave it like that, and when I installed it, it wouldn't install those DKMS drivers?
Correct.
Okay.
And if you're running a live USB, we got about 10 different ways you can do that. So you can use persistence and remove it and install 2 weeks from now, it'll still be gone if you're running persistence. If you remove it and then run a remaster, it'll be there in the new master when you install. If you install it on another system, remove everything and make a snapshot, it's all gone in the snapshot. Okay. It's kind of the magic of the Yandex Live system, and I'm going to give a shout out to my guy BitJam out in the middle of nowhere desert someplace. The guy's a freaking genius with the Yandex Live system, and is one reason that we've kept it for as long as we have is because it is awesome. It lets you do all these things. And we have so many people making respins because of this. We have a respin area forum. There's people throwing up Cinnamon desktops and GNOME desktops. There's a guy mashing things up with Parrot OS. And I'm not saying this like this is a secret, so don't go telling everybody, but there may actually be an Arch spin.
Holy.
Yeah, there's an Arch spin. That is using modified versions of the live system.
Wow.
Oh, Wow. But you're actually starting to sell me on MX Linux, and that might be my next install for my because my mainline PC just started messing up, so I'm looking at a reinstall. But then again, I've been running this install for 2 years, so
it's built to be flexible, and once you get your head around what it does, it's really flexible for making spins. Zeb, at one time, I even made a spin with Peppermint Mark. We wanted to see if we can make the snapshot system work on Peppermint, and it was a little weird because of Ubuntu. But yeah, we could have done it. We could have got it the rest of the way. I have somewhere in my hard drive somewhere the Mark edition of MX, I think 17 or something, that runs on Ubuntu's forums. You can any Debian distribution, if you get all the pieces in there, it'll work. It might not work the way you expect because it's not MX, but it can be modified. The Arch one's a little different because it actually doesn't have, technically speaking, the Annex Life system, but it does have snapshot and a form of remaster. It's just using more of the Arch way of doing things, and it uses our installer, so it still does the trick of if you remove it before you install it, it's still gone.
That's wild. Also, I think a feature of the installer, which I'm going to go ahead and say that I think the MX installer is the neatest installer, just because as you get to a certain point, it begins the installation process. If you can go back, you can tweak some of your settings while it's doing the install. You can go back and forth to a certain point. And I think that's pretty amazing. Like, it's literally wild that you can do that. And I don't know how that happened. I don't know what magic sauce you pulled together to make that happen, but that's very amazing to me.
So part of it is because we dumped the running file system, right? So basically all you do is you define all your targets, all your partition targets, and then you tell on any other distro you get on other installers you get to the part where you put in your username and everything, and then you hit the install button and it does its thing. This one just starts the big copy, and then you can do everything else while the copy is running. That copy actually on my NVMe drive and my 16 cores, the install, people usually are like, oh, I installed in 6 minutes or 8 minutes. I can install in 3 on this laptop. It is stupid fast. I can't believe how fast the NVMe drive is in this thing. But when the big copy is happening, you ask you all its information that it can configure. And then if you don't do it, it'll just wait for you to come back and finish filling out the information, and then it'll do the user configuration. And there's even a secret OEM mode where it will actually do the user configuration on the next reboot. Right now, I don't know how long that will last in its current form because it requires an X server, but right now it's fine. We use it on the Pi spin. You get this user configuration screen the first time you open the Pi spin, and you can set your language, you can set your user information, everything, and then it continues on. That works on the regular distro too. It's not something special for the Pi. We modified what we had in the OEM install for the Pi.
I still contend that the installer is the best because I love that you have text help like right there. It's just always been so smart to just like, hey, you're asking me a question on the right. Maybe I don't know what I want to do there, and then on the left, it's very clearly explained. Like,
and again, it's a shout out. It's a shout out, and I appreciate that very much because it's a shout out to AK47 because he really took the installer in both hands and fleshed it out in a way that's, our installer, our partition chooser is a little funky, but it can do so many things. And it can do things on partitions that aren't even part of the install. Okay, you can have like your Steam game partition pre-mounted when you first reboot if you really, really want to. He did all that. It really did a really great job on that. The first iteration of the partition chooser was a little weird, but it's grown up. It's much better now than it was when it first came out. And that help text over on the left, he is passionate about that. He makes sure that that's all done before we release one. So it's pretty good. And we got the installer help in the manual that ships on the ISO in, dare I say, 22 languages, although 19 of them are machine translated. But hey, they're there, so it's better than nothing in my mind.
That's awesome. Well, I just want to say thank you very much for coming on. We're pretty rapidly running out of time. And I just want to say I've run MX in a little while, but it's going to be staying on some new machines. And also, I could have used, because that UFI thing, that's actually literally a game changer for me, because I've had to rescue numerous systems because there's issues with UFI, and now I'm going to show my tech at work how to utilize this. So that'll be pretty cool. So thank you very much.
Well, I'm glad you found it useful. We really appreciate you guys taking a look at it. I'm not always in the comments thread, but I watch the show quite often, so I really appreciate it.
Well, Jinda always sings your praises, so you got your fanboy there. So.
All right. There you go. Big thumb up.
Just one question, Dolphin. What version of the kernel are you running?
What am I running right now?
No.
I'm running
on the latest version of MX.
Okay.
What's the default kernel version?
The standard editions are all using 6.12 point something 63, I think. Well, that's what they ship with. I think it updated the 73 this week, but the Oz edition is 6.18.
Okay.
0.9, but I think 0.12 at the moment.
Yeah,
we update them about once a week. Yeah. The Oz ones.
The only reason why I'm asking is because the laptop I'm using, it matters which kernel you're running because of the AMD chip. It's a newer one. It's within the last year and a half. So, yeah, as long as it's 6.12, it's fine. I just wanted before I actually
Debian 13's Debian 13 standard kernel is 6.12, and
that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
the new secure boot support. We don't have our own key, so UEFI key, so that more or less relies on Debian's kernel. So the Oz edition isn't going to work. The Oz edition or any Oz kernel is not going to work with secure boot, but the Debian standard kernels will. So
it doesn't matter. I disable secure boot. I don't use it.
Well, I mean, I do too, but there's a surprising number of Linux users who do not. And that was important for them. So that's one reason the KDE release ships with 6.12, because it's the Debian kernel, so they can use it with secure boot. It's important for
a lot of people don't know how to disable it. So
a lot of people don't. And we have some reports. We have some reports of relatively inexpensive, I call them cheap, laptops that don't actually have an option to disable it. By reports. I don't have one in my hand, so I don't know for sure. But there are a number of people in our forum who were like, "Oh, I'm so glad you guys have secure boot now, because like the live system could always boot on it, but now the installed system can." And that's the main reason, because we don't have our own secure boot key, so we use Debian stuff to make that happen. A lot like the Ubuntu guys all use Ubuntu's keys. Same kind of idea.
Yeah. That would just make me use a lot of foul language if I couldn't disable secure boot, because there's some drivers I use that don't have secure boot keys and stuff like that. It just makes life easier just to build those drivers. So I'm just like,
yeah, we might have a blog post about self-signing your DKMS drivers so that you can use them on your UEFI secure boot system, but. Oh yeah, we do have a blog post for that. The installer doesn't do it for you, but we do tell you how in the manual. So, it's a little bit irritating doing the self-signing key thing, but it does work.
Yeah,
it's also
just
important
RTFM.
to have that support, because if anybody wants to dual boot, you have to have secure boot if you want to have a Windows dual booting system. Like, there's no other option. So, turning it off. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to, when they first switch, they're going to need that. So having that as an option is very important.
Yeah, that's actually how I dual boot my Windows. My system came with a stupid BitLocker Windows installation that decrypts off a TPM chip. So the way I dual boot is I turn off the I turn off the secure boot, and it boots into MX. And if I want to boot into Windows, I turn the secure boot back on, and it does it that way. But at least that's how I used to do it. Now MX can boot on secure boot, so that doesn't quite work anymore. But that's how I used to do it.
Yeah, but my Windows hasn't got secure boot, and I dual boot Windows and MX. Because not many Linux distros worked with it, I've had dual boot turned off. I've had dual boot turned off on my Windows systems since 2015, and they always work.
Do you have Windows 11?
I do.
Do you have a default or do you have a modified?
What do you mean modified?
Did you do any tweaks?
I used Rufus to install it. You should never use the standard Microsoft download, because
I'm asking, do you have a modified thing where
extra garbage?
Because by default, all OEMs have secure boot. So did you replace Windows with a different Windows thing?
No, I just use Rufus, which turns off the need for TPM2, turns off the need for a Microsoft account, turns off the need for secure boot, and turns off.
So you did compensate for it that most people would not have. Okay, that's what my question was.
Yeah. Yes.
Mine's just the OEM thing. It's got the TPM chip. I didn't get rid of it because every now and then I got to run AutoCAD. So, it's a thing.
Yeah, mine's still got a TPM2 chip, but if you use Rufus, and it's like a 30, if it's causing you problems, it's a 30-second Google search, and it will tell you just to use Rufus. And despite what Microsoft are still doing, Rufus still works and still disables all that stuff. So you can run dual boot without secure boot.
Does it require you to reinstall the system, or Rufus can just modify an existing system?
No, you have to reinstall it, having put the bits and pieces in Rufus. But there are plenty of other applications out there, like WinAeroTreaker and various other things that can fix all those woes for you after the fact. You just got to do a bit of Google.
Yeah,
search.
I mean, there's
people.
People have to know that that's even a thing, though.
Yeah, but then if people spent as much time tweaking Windows as they do tweaking Linux, it wouldn't be as big an issue for people. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
I am and always will be a dual booter because my brain is wired for Windows. But OSs like MX make it so easy to change. Yeah. It really does.
Yeah. Did you read that thing about Microsoft disabling Rufus download feature? You can't download the ISO from Rufus anymore because they've disabled that on the Microsoft
just download it from Microsoft and then still use Rufus on it.
Yeah, there's always a workaround.
so that still works. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that they had completely disabled Rufus.
No, Rufus. The update with Rufus got around that. It's fine.
And it's like all of these things, whatever a clever person can, with an OS, make things awkward for you, there's always someone equally as clever to undo that annoyance that you've got. You've just got to search for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on to housekeeping. And I'll put a link to Rufus in there just in case. Because, why not? If it helps somebody out, that's great. So thank you very much for Dolphin for being here. I really appreciate that. It's great to have you on again to just kind of tell us, to help guide us through our MX exploration. So thank you very much. So next week is a news flight night. So we're just going to be different news topics. If you have anything, you can submit them on Discord or on Telegram, and we'll get it in there. Also, there's a calendar now for Linux Saloon, so you can see what's coming up. News flight's up next. An application appetized after that. But I do want to bring in there real quick. Per the poll, I will be bringing back the Linux Saloon Early Edition, and we will have that next week. So I think we're going to do 1 p.m. Eastern. So I'll put that in the calendar, so if you want to check that out. Even if it's just me, we'll do a Linux Saloon Early Edition. But for those in Europe that would like to join, I heard there might be somebody. There's a possibility someone from That might be there too.
What the hell?
Someone from Linux Saloon / Big Data Linux might give us a visit if the sleigh's not broken. So anyway, that just might happen. So, but if you have any suggestions, distributions, suggestions, discussion ideas, application appetizers, or poll ideas for future polls, please send them to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com, or you can send them either on the Telegram or Discord app. Yes, Eric.
Sorry, is that the 28th at 1?
What did I say? 28th, next Saturday. Yep.
No,
It'll be
okay, next Saturday. I was just checking. Thank you.
So that date might float around a little bit, and the time might float, but check the calendar. You can go to linuxsaloon.com or go to kubernetes.com/linuxsaloon if the redirect doesn't work, so you can check that out. But I'll have the details in there before Sunday ends. So I was actually surprised by the feedback on that. So yes.
Just a quick tip, Nate. Don't make it before 1 p.m. because otherwise people will still be at work in the UK.
Yeah, I think 1 is what we did last time, I believe, and so we'll do again. So, but according to the poll that was on cubicalate.com/polls, 92% were in favor. 8% were not interested in a early edition. So, so overwhelmingly positive in the idea of bringing back the early edition. So. And things have kind of cleared up on my end, so there is some allowance for this again. But if anybody else wants to host, let me know. Email me at suggestions@linuxsaloon.com. All right. We're going to skip the feedback this week. We'll go ahead and do it. So, Scrub Ghost, in reference to the open mic night, says, "Oh, you have Zeb." So. Some excitement there. And also, Scrub Ghost did comment that he was laughing about the show countdown, how it counted down, and then was saying all these different things. He thought it was I'm running out of music, so the stream members should figure this out right now. Anyway, he thought that was funny. Anyway, so if you have any comments after the fact, I'll make sure I bring those to the show as well. All right, so Ben, real quick, you got 30 seconds, whatever you want to throw on us for 30 seconds. I got it.
Yeah,
Fire away.
I actually have to get on myself. I had a lot of crap to do tonight. So, long story short, the next release, which I'm building right now, is StormOS. We are going to be featuring KDE as an install option in Calamares. Plain simple.
Oh, very nice.
So, Nate, you are finally going to be able to, you're going to have to remove XFCE manually when you install it because I haven't figured that part out yet, unfortunately. But, yeah, long story short, KDE is going to be coming as an install option in the next build. I will probably add other desktops that I see fit later, but for now it's just going to be XFCE and KDE. That's it. So, yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I'm glad you're still chugging away at it.
Send me links and I'll test it out for you.
No worries. I'm actually about to copy it to this computer to upload very shortly. So.
Okay.
Send it to me too, Ben, and I will take a look at it too.
I'll send it to both y'all after this for sure.
There's such sweet people on Linux Saloon.
Yes, every time.
All right, so
guys.
It's time for last call. Anyone anything they wanted to share on a way out here? I know Eric. Got anything exciting going on? No. I wanted to really thank War Thunder for being here. So welcome to the stream. Thank you for being here. Nice to have your input. Hope you come back. Hope I didn't scare you off. Do that effect on people.
I'll try.
Try to be scared off or come back.
You will come back to the stream.
Tonight just worked out.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
We'll see. I'll do my best to show up when I can.
Well, I appreciate it. And then Dale, I don't know what you had anything exciting going on in your world. I'm not sure about you're muted. You just pulled a Nate.
I feel like more like you now.
Oh,
okay.
That's terrible.
I just shared a link. Yeah, I know. I shared a link in the Discord if you would share it to YouTube. It's for Lou Bosch. Wants to know what y'all are using if you're not using KDE, GNOME, or XFCE.
XFCE.
And
Where did you put? Oh, I see it.
Michael's asking to go next. He says, "Got to go."
Okay, Michael, please.
I just want to let you know that I wanted to. I actually released the latest episode of Twill while we're doing the show for Saloon, so it's kind of like an extra piece of content. So when you're done, when you're done with this, you can go watch Twill. And I waited until the end. You're welcome.
You don't have to.
And
but thank you.
I mean, it also just took me a while, but I decided like, hey, it's only 30 minutes left extra. I'll keep it. I'll keep it to the end. But also, 10 years of Tux Digital. I'm gonna do a celebration. I haven't picked a date yet. So yesterday I did a stream that I was like kind of calling it a celebration because it happened to be the exact day of the 10-year anniversary, and then it did not work because I wanted to do like a live Twill plus a bunch of other stuff, and I was successful in Twill, and that was it. So the rest of the stuff did not happen. I just didn't have the time to do it, despite the super long stream. Still didn't have time. So I'm going to do a separate stream sometime in the future, like in the next couple of weeks or a few weeks or so. I haven't picked an exact date yet, but I'm going to be doing that. So just let everybody know that, 10 years celebration for Tux Digital is happening soon.
That's awesome. Very awesome. Well, I remember the first time the first time I listened to, I believe it was This Week in Linux. No, I was listening to the Linux Action Show, and I think you were a part of that. And they're talking about when Ubuntu was retiring Unity, and you had this really great reason why they should have actually switched to the Qt base instead, using KDE whatever. And I think I remember there's some other way I was interacting with you, and I copied and pasted whatever video you did to you to check out because based on this, like that was me. And it's like that was my first like.
That was actually one of the first videos I ever made on my channel.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny because I was still producer of the Linux Action Show and Linux Unplugged at the time, and then I made that video, and it was just kind of like, I just wanted a place to put this because it's like, I still believe that KDE Plasma is still a better option for Ubuntu, but it's been 10 years. They've made their decision.
Yeah, it is what it is. Anybody else?
I do.
Sure.
The Penguin Revolution channel is actually starting back up next week. Not this week. I don't have time. I don't have time to get the video. It was recorded and edited, but next, probably Tuesday, the Tuesday after next Tuesday, we're going to have some videos coming up about maintaining like home servers and stuff. So keep a lookout for that.
Sweet. Okay. And then I know I think Mike Chilson, thank you for being here. I know you have your own your BBS.net, classicbbs.net for people to check out. And we have some applications videos we're going to try out here pretty soon too. Whenever you're ready, good sir.
Okay. I mean, actually, whenever you need some filler, let me know and we'll do it.
No, we're going to feature it, not filler it. I mean, it's nice to
have
I'm
easy like I'm easy.
Yeah.
I'm like Zeb. I'm easy,
No, he says Next. He likes Nextcloud better than OwnCloud, just based on the name. And then I don't know if Dolphin, if you have anything else you want to say or not, or if you're good. Or anybody else?
Last thing. Make it short.
What's that?
Oh, I was going to say we got a couple things coming down the pike with our installer, but a text mode for doing things without a GUI, and things like that. But also keep an eye open. Antics 26 is coming around the corner. And if you're a fan of init systems that are not systemd, then their ISO is going a step beyond what we did with the dual-init. I think they're going to have 5 init systems on there.
Oh, wow.
And if you just want to play, go play. If one exists, it's probably on that ISO. init, run it's actually the default. SysV's on there. S6, and I think there's another S6 derivative in dinit. So I think there's 5. So if you're into that kind of thing, they're in the middle of a release candidate cycle right now, and we've been tweaking a couple of things in our installer to help them out with that stuff. Minor stuff on our end, but they're in the middle of it. Go check it out.
Sweet. Yeah, it's another great one as well. So, well, fantastic. And then what did you say, War Thunder? You have something you want to say?
I was going to say, if you don't mind, I got my own YouTube channel that I don't do anything special on, but it's War Thunder's Nerd Cave. I kind of just do whatever I feel like doing at the time. It's largely around Linux and some hardware and whatnot, but I might get some retro stuff on there eventually as I got time. But as a full-time engineer, I don't have a lot of free time at home, but when I do, I like to mess on old stuff. So
will you put a link in the chat?
Yeah, I'd go grab it.
Thank you, sir.
Sweet.
You'll have several new subscribers if you do.
So, and then I have a podcast called Linux Out Loud. You can check out. We just Wendy, Matt, and I, we talked about a bunch of things, so you can check that out. And also my website, keepinglight.com, where I have polls, and the Linux Saloon stuff is on here, so you can check that out. Also, another featured podcast, check out Linux User Space. They just released a new episode this last week, last Sunday. So do give them some love as well. So I want to thank you all for your support, however you do it, being a part of this conversation, both the Discord meeting and the YouTube stream, as well as for everyone watching the show after the fact. I want to thank everyone involved in making Linux open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back in a personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see yous.
See you later.